Hey, what's up, you guys? So today I'm going to be discussing Kingdom of Ash by SARAH J MAAS. So this is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, and I should have book talks up for the rest of the series by now. So I'm going to link it up in the cards above so you can check it out wherever you want to and whenever you want to. But this book, let me tell y'all, it was the best book. It is a little over 900 pages, and every page was worth it, in my opinion. I absolutely loved this book. I loved the characters. I loved how we further developed them so much more. I loved how this felt like a finale. This felt like reading those epic battle sequences in Lord of the Rings, the movies. I'm not the biggest fan of the books, but this just felt so epic and it felt so grand scale. It reminded me so much of so many moments in Lord of the Rings, honestly, and that's what I really loved about it, was those moments. I cried, I laughed, I did all of the things. This book was fantastic. Again, really what champions this series for me is the characters. I think they're so strong, and I think they really carry the series so well. I love how they interplay together, and I especially love the overall message that it really comes down to your friendships and your allies, just reaching out to people and also being there when they reach out for you. So it's just a give and take, and it's all really about friendship at the end of the day. The setting, I really loved how we've developed the setting so much so far, and we really got to play around with that and use that so much in this book. This book was just such a culmination of all of the good things that have so far happened in this series. I loved the resolution at the end, and I loved how it took place not just with one character, but with a few characters. I loved how so many different characters played a role in the overall finale of this. I really just loved how all of the pieces came together so well. I especially loved that there were some callbacks to the first Throne of Glass book, because looking at this book, it really has changed so much overall the series from what it started off as. Because in Throne of Glass, we're just with an assassin, but in Kingdom of Ash, we are with a queen who is taking back her throne, who is bringing together a people, who is championing unity and this unification. I just liked this book so much. So I definitely recommend this series if you haven't checked it out so far. I'm just gonna launch into some spoils because I really want to discuss this book and all of the spoilery goodness with you guys and all of the epic battles. Like, epic battles. So leave now if you haven't read it yet, or else you're gonna be spoiled. So bye. Okay, welcome back if you want to be spoiled or if you've read it. It starts off with all of our characters being in different places for the most part. We've got three major groups. We've got Manon and Dorian with the 13. We've got Aedion and Lysandra with the Bane, and we've got Aelin and Rowan. Well, Aelin's not with Rowan, but we've got Rowan hunting down Aelin. They're off in the Fey world of Dornell. Aedion is in Terrasen, and he's fighting this battle against Erwin that has finally really started. Dorian and Manon, who are with the 13, who are trying to get some Crochins. I still can't pronounce that word, but I did learn that I pronounced Wyvern wrong. Still can't pronounce words. It's fine. Let's start off with talking about Rowan and Aelin and everything that was going on there, and my stress levels, which were very, very high for this situation. The first day that I read this book, I read it over the course of 2 days, but the first day that I read it, I could not stop until Aelin was at least saved, because oh my goodness, I was so stressed out for her. And every moment that she was kind of with Karn and with Maeve, it was nice to figure out what Maeve was wanting from her, but it was also really stressful because we didn't want her to like say anything that she shouldn't say, and I was just really nervous that she was going to break, but she didn't. But she did definitely change as a result of this. She really doesn't trust her magic anymore. She doesn't trust herself anymore, and I absolutely loved that development with her. I loved how that really shook her to her core and made her less powerful, so that it actually seemed more of a struggle than it was in the beginning. Rowan was able to successfully save Maeve, but this was with the help of a lead, which I absolutely loved, because I was nervous that a lead would feel a little bit pointless in this book, and she really was one of my favorites in Empire of Storms, and I didn't want her to feel pointless because I absolutely loved her, and so I loved that I felt like she had a point and she still got to be her kind of badass lying, scheming self. And so she was able to actually get the help that they needed to figure out where Aelin was and how to get her. And so I loved that she played such a crucial role in that. I thought that that really showed anyone in this battle was really important, you know, regardless of what your situation was. And so I absolutely loved that message as well, that anyone is important. Aelin is now saved. Yay. What's going on in the northern continent? We've got Aedion with the Bane, and they are fighting their battles, and Lysandra is faking it like like she's Aelin. And I absolutely loved all of those moments, and I loved their struggle with like being okay with each other, because Aedion loved Lysandra, but she definitely did betray him a little bit. I mean, she lied to him. He didn't know like what was going on with Aelin, and he was just upset about it. And I understand that, I do, and I really loved how their relationship, how it wasn't just like a miscommunication that was the issue. It was a lot of things that were issues. So they're battling and they're doing okay at first, but then more keep coming and more just keep on coming and more just keep on coming, and they cannot keep up with the numbers. So they are really struggling and they're having to backpedal a lot. They're having to give up territory, and eventually their lines start to break. And so Lysandra, in an effort to stop that, she shapeshifts into Aelin, and people discover that Aelin isn't Aelin. And that's really stressful for all of the soldiers, because they thought that they had this great force with them, but they didn't. And so after that, there is just a lot of distrust with Lysandra and the other lords and all of that. It's okay because they're still losing, so they're still just giving up land, and it's not like they have any other options other than to just keep moving back and take her with them, because she's killing a bunch of these guys, and so she's at least a help, you know, even if she's not Aelin, even if she was faking it. So I absolutely loved that she was playing such a major role there. I think that it really helped to show how she had grown as a character, how she had grown into a leader, how she had grown into someone who could be deserving of respect, even though she did lie to kind of get it. So that's what she and Aedion are doing. While all of this is going on, Manon is looking for the Krakens. She is able to find them with the help of Dorian, except she doesn't realize that she did it with the help of Dorian. And Dorian is wanting to get the keys from Morath. He's just not really telling Manon about it right now, because he doesn't want her to know that he's not really listening to her. Dorian and Manon, what's going on there? I love it. I love every scene with Dorian in it still. He's just such a great character. And I love Manon as well. I think that she really grows to care for him, and she doesn't understand that. She doesn't know how to care for things. And I love that she doesn't know how to care for things. It makes her such an interesting character to read about. So she finds the Krakens, and they don't really want to trust her or listen to her, which makes sense because she killed a bunch of them in her past. She's just struggling with that, while Dorian is trying to learn how to shapeshift from a spider, and eventually he figures it out and kills the spider. Whoop-de-doo. So now he can go to Morath, and Manon is pissed because he didn't tell her that this was his plan, and so she's just frustrated, and she doesn't want him to go, but she doesn't know how to say stay. And I loved that as well. It really shows how much Manon doesn't know how to feel and doesn't know how to recognize her feelings, and how she's still learning that. You know, I love that it shows that she's still developing, even though the series ends with her still working on communicating these feelings, because not every story ends with every character fully developed. So I absolutely loved that she was still developing and still showing that. So she's still showing that she doesn't know how to show her feelings or tell her feelings or talk about her feelings or anything like that. And so Dorian goes off to Morath to go get that last key. And oh goodness, every moment he was in Morath had me stressed out as hell. So at Morath, he runs into Maeve, he runs into Erwin. He is really putting himself on the line here. He could very easily die, but he didn't. Yay. Oh god, I was so happy when he got out of there. I was so happy how he was able to trick Maeve using her own skills and abilities. I was like, you go, boy, you go. I loved it. I loved Dorian in this book. I loved him in the entire series, honestly. He goes through so much. He changes so much. In my opinion, he has like the least traumatic backstory out of most of our characters. You know, most of our characters like watch their parents die. Him, on the other hand, he just had a cold and distant dad. Like, that's one thing. Whereas everyone else, like, they had to, like, run for their lives at one point. So I think he had, like, the least traumatic past, even though it was still traumatic. I feel like in the books, he, like, got the most traumatic past in the books. Like, he had the most traumatic experiences in the book. And so I loved him in this book. And him talking to Maeve, working with her. I was so nervous that he was going to get found out. I was so nervous that Maeve was going to turn on him. And I'm sure that she would have at some point. Like, I mean, I think that's what she was doing at the end, but it's fine. And it really caused me to really question my distaste for Maeve. Like, is she really bad? Or does she just not know how to be good? Like, it's one of those things where I'm not sure if she's like the worst villain ever because I just think she never knew what it was to be good. Because she lived on this world for so long without really doing terrible things as a leader. I mean, she did abuse some of her subjects. Yes, she wasn't a nice person, but she didn't cause like genocide. So it really just drew me into this like idea of like how bad is bad. And so I think that that was an interesting thing as well in this book, was that it kind of made me question that a little bit. Like, what is true badness and what is the punishment for it, you know? So I liked that as well. I liked that it made me kind of think about that. So Dorian was able to get the key out of Morath. Yay. He left with the 3 keys. I'm way ahead on that plot line in comparison with the rest of them. So let's get on to Irene and Cole. So Irene and Cole are sailing with the Kagan's army, and they wind up running into Anil, which is Cole's home, and it's under siege. So they come and save the day, and it's fantastic, except for the fact that the dam's about to break. Luckily, Aelin gets there in time and is able to prevent that from killing a bunch of people, but she's only really able to do that because a lead winds up going out on the battlefield to go get Lorcan, and I'm like, oh my god, a lead? No! But also, yes! Because her and Lorcan, like, my favorite couple. Like, oh my god, every scene where they're, like, doing any sort of coupley things, I'm like, please, 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 please. And I was so nervous for them, too, in this book, because they were really struggling to have any sort of communication because a lead was just so angry. The thing is it's understandable. Like, I understand why she's angry. So she's, you know, angry and she's not learning to forgive. When he's dying, she realizes she just needs to talk to him and she needs to forgive. She runs out to him and she's not gonna make it back in time. And so Aelin saves them, and it's just such a beautiful moment. And really any moment with Lorcan and Elide, I was just so here for, because they were my couple. Like, they were my ship in this entire series. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Dorian and Aelin and Throne of Glass, but oh my god, Lorcan and Elide, when they met in Empire of Storms, I was like, googly eyes for them, okay? So they are able to take Enel. My air conditioner just kicked on and I don't feel like stopping right now, so we're just gonna keep going. And they're just gonna march on north to try to get to Ornth in time to stop, you know, Aedion the Bane and everything that's left of Terrasen of being destroyed. And so that's what they're headed to do. Yay, we've got all of our pieces finally coming together because we've got Lysandra, Aedion, they're in Ornth, and we're getting Aelin and her crew, Irene and Cole, and all the Kagan people. We're getting them all to move to the same location now, which means this is where the final battle is going to happen. And so far, I loved all of the battle sequences up to this point. We had a bunch happen with the Bane. We had the one at Enel. I thought that they were such great sequences, especially because you could feel the mounting pressure, especially in the ones that were happening in Terrasen. You could feel that mounting pressure against them, and how they had to keep backtracking, and how them being outnumbered was such a hindrance. So far, really enjoyed all the battle sequences, so really looking forward to this last one that I know is coming. And so then we get Ornth, and everyone is kind of at Ornth who is from Terrasen. And so Aedion and Lysandra are trying to just keep the castle from being breached. All of the Erwin's forces show up, so do the wyverns. I can't pronounce words. At the perfect moment, Manon shows up so that they have an aerial legion to face the aerial legion with Erwin, because otherwise they would have been doomed. And so that was such a great moment. And I want to stop for a moment and talk about the moment where Manon called for aid and how she had to earn the respect of the Krakens. I loved it. It honestly made me tear up when she was like, we're gonna answer this call for aid. What are you guys gonna do? And they all answered too. And there was just such support. And I honestly just like teared up while I was reading it. I felt really dumb because I was like, this is not an emotional moment. But it's like, all of our people, like, they are now finally agreeing to this. They're gonna help. We're gonna be able to help these people. So it just felt like such an emotional moment. It felt so raw. It just felt like such satisfaction. They're able to deal with the aerial legion, but also Manon was able to turn some of them, specifically Petra, who she had saved the life of, and she was able to turn her to get her to help. And I loved the moment where Petra killed Iskra, because that just felt so satisfying as well. And when she screamed for Keely, I just cried. Like, I was like, oh, I can understand. Like, if someone ever did anything to my cat, like, she might be evil, but if you ever did anything to my cat, like, I'll come for you. Like, she's my baby. And I loved that moment. I cried again. The witches really were what were killing me in this book. I just broke for them every time. And then with the witch towers as well, when the 13 left Manon and went to go take out the witch tower, I was just like, no. And poor Manon, like, these are the people that have been with her through thick and thin for her entire life, and now it's all gone. Like, her people are all gone. Like, she is so alone, and I just felt so bad for her, and I cried so much because Astrid, she was such a beautiful character. She was such a beautiful person, and I was hoping that she would get a good ending in the end, but, you know, she went out in a blaze of glory. Quite literally, I cried. And right before that had happened, we also had an Iskra and Manon battle that happened, and I also cried during that as well because Abraxas almost died, and I was like, not Abraxas. Like, literally, that was all I could think. I was like, not Abraxas, please, not him. So luckily Abraxas didn't die, but it was really such a moment. That whole sequence, it was so heart-wrenching. And so as they start to dwindle low on supplies and days pass and the siege is still going on, eventually Aelin and the Kagan's army are able to arrive. Prior to this, she and Dorian had sealed the word keys into the word gate, and they had both lost good portions of their magic in doing this. We also got to meet Dorian's father and learn that his dad could have taken his place, and so Dorian's father wound up taking Dorian's place, and so Dorian was left with a lot more magic than Aelin, but Aelin was gifted by Mala with some more magic, so she had a small fire gift still left to her in the end. And that whole scene where they, you know, tried to not have to give both of their lives, it was so stressful. I loved that they both made it out, and I loved how it dampened both of their powers so that now they're not just unstoppable forces, they have limits. And I really loved that addition to their powers and abilities, was having those limitations, because I feel like it makes them more contained, and it really does fix that problem that Cole was having, where it was like, what do you do with unchecked power? Like, do you let it live, or what do you do? If it's not bad, like, what do you do with unchecked power? So I liked that we no longer have that issue of unchecked power. So they arrive at Orinth, and we've now got everyone there, all of our major players. We've got Erwin and Maeve there. We've got Aelin, Rowan, all of those guys there. Irene, Cole. We've got Dorian. We've got Manon. We've got everyone there for the final battle. And so this whole battle sequence, it was just fantastically done in my opinion. Every moment I was so stressed for these characters. Gabriel winds up giving his life to save the city of Orinth, and I was so upset for Aedion. He never got the closure that he wanted with his dad, and it was just so sad, so gut-wrenching. So they're able to help out a lot, and it winds up coming down to Aelin versus Maeve and Erwin, trying to buy them time to run because they cannot win against these two forces. But Irene, Alid, and Nesserin, I think it is, come up with a plan to take out Erwin. They send out like a pulse of magic, of healing magic, that kind of summons Erwin to them, and he comes, and then Irene is able to kill him. And I absolutely loved that Irene killed Erwin, and it wasn't Aelin in the end that killed him. I loved that usage of the healing magic was what did it, and I loved how we got an understanding for how he created the word gate in the first place with the healing magic, with the magic to create or to destroy. And so I absolutely loved that twist. I love that this left Maeve versus Aelin in the end, because they really were the two forces that I felt were most matched for each other. And so Maeve starts to torture Aelin's friends, you know, Rowan, Lorcan, Fenris, and Aelin is able to pull them out of that. But oh, that moment where they were all kind of in her little hellscape, I was like, oh my god. And especially Lorcan's, like, Lorcan's hurt me. Lorcan's was upsetting. I mean, Fenris's was upsetting too, but like, Lorcan, Rowan's was predictable. Rowan's made sense. But Lorcan, aw. So Aelin's able to get them out of that, luckily, and she's able to defeat Maeve in the end, which was fantastic and so satisfying. And it was just such a great ending to this series overall. And once Maeve and Erwin had fallen, so did all of the soldiers, and they had won the battle. And so then we get all of our goodbyes, and all of these goodbyes were so sad, and I'm just gonna miss these characters, honestly. I love them so much, especially Alid. I love that Alid got to marry Lorcan, and I love that they made a joke about his name and how his name is Lord Lorcan Locken. Like, I was just giggling. So this book, overall, great book. 5 out of 5 stars. Recommend. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, comment, do all of the things. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.